Welcome back, everyone, to another YouTube video. Jeff here with Properly Fashioned. Today, I'm deciding to do a quick room tour of my New York City apartment, showcase you my leather workshop, what I do here, how I live in this small shoebox of a room, and discover some little trinkets of goodies and secrets. So, without further ado, let's get into the video and start the room tour. Welcome to my room. So over here, we'll start with this side. All my posters, you can see my hanging bags that I have that I carry on the daily. We got the clothes that, go over where I sleep on my twin size bed. You're probably wondering, how do you sleep on this bed? And the trick is you got to make every square foot of your space count. So for me, my toes dangle into my sleeves and the hems of my shirts, and so they end up smelling like my stinky toes when I wear them the next day. But that's okay because I have no space, and you make it work. We got the beautiful window that overlooks the street. This is where I really ponder about the intricacies of my own life, and that's a conversation for another time. I've got my bed set, and then over here, this is where the magic happens. And I'm not talking about the bed, I'm talking about my workshop here. This is where I make all my items, I make my commissions. Down here is my little project section. So that's where you could see like some of the items I'm making in the process. I've got a bag, some lighter holders that I've been commissioned. And then, any other ideas usually stick to the wall here before I take them down and put them on this back shelf up here of past projects and past designs. So all of those really come out of my thesis collection that I did a few months ago. And yeah, that was a good time. Let's have a seat so we could look over my workstation. So now that we're sitting at the desk, I just want to show you some of the tools and supplies that I grab on a daily basis when I'm working on my leather craft. So we'll start from the left and work our way over. And the way that I organize this, I just got this pegboard a few days ago, and it's been a life changer, which is mainly what I wanted to show here. Because it keeps your tools organized so easy. It's so much easier to grab than going into my toolbox under my bed, taking out my toolbox and finding what I need. Granted, I still have some tools in here, but I like to subscribe to the 80-20 philosophy, where 80% of my items are quick draws, and the items that I use more on a 20% basis, so less frequent, more for like specialty projects, those stay in the toolbox. And so with this system, you're a lot more efficient, a lot more capable of banging out a couple of designs faster than having to take out everything, have it over, and put it back. So starting over here, we have the pliers and the notcher. The notcher I really use to notch my pattern pieces, my oak tag, or leather pieces. And that is going to give you a notch like that. It's really good for matching seams. And you would know that if you work with leather or a sewer, matching seams are really important to get in the shape and the structure and everything fitting properly. It's a very important tool. $5 on Amazon, probably more now. So the next tool is my red spreader. This is a recent pickup that I picked up at my local department store. And this I really use to spread the rubber cement on my leather pieces. And it works the same as a paintbrush, just a little bit more uniform and a little cleaner. So I definitely would suggest something like this. You could get it for like $2, and it's a great addition to getting those simple simple adhesive spreads on your projects, where then you could fold it over and stitch it in. So the next tools are my 4 scissors, and you might be wondering, Jeff, why do you have 4 scissors? Well, each scissor has its very unique personality, name, and purpose. Um, this one is called Big Dog Jerry. This one is called Small Dog Jerry. This one is called Paper Scissor. And this one is a little birdie. Look at that. This is your embroidery scissor. It's a very novelty piece. I don't really use this much anymore, but it looks great. Big Dog Jerry, mostly for cutting thick leathers, canvas, anything heavy. The middle size one is for my lighter fabrics, also thinner pieces of leather like pigskin or kidskin. And that's the paper scissor, cutting paper. Threads, anything small, mostly threads. I use a wide variety of threads. So starting out with my wax threads, these are really good for saddle stitching by hand. These are really good finishing threads that you want to show on the outer pieces of your leather crafts. So for example, on this lighter holder, or sorry, not lighter holder, which I do make, but on this this knife cover, you have the stitching over here, which I used my wax threads for, and these are going to be hand stitched, saddle stitched with the wax threads. They look really thick. They're perfect for hand stitching because you got a good grip and they have a very nice finish to them. I mostly make small leather projects here in this room because it's a 75 square foot room. And so I don't really have machines for anything larger, like a Juki, like plain stitch. Don't really have the real estate for that. So I really rely mostly recently on these wax threads and hand projects, which I use my stitch pony for, which I'll show you in a second. Over here, I call my symmetrical block. You have your X-Acto knife, your leather cutting knife, your bone folder, and I have a little sandpaper tool, and my box cutter knife. All of these, again, are to cut the leather pieces. And let's just admire for the fact how this is set up. I mean, come on. Who doesn't like symmetry? The knives versus the scissors is going to be a universal debate question. Usually, it really depends on the corners that you're cutting, what type of leather you're cutting. So a more pliable leather, I would go with the scissors, just because you're able to maneuver that. Whereas a harder, stiffer leather that doesn't have much elasticity to it, I would use a knife. And then the different sizes are for the different weights of the leather. So maybe like a 2 ounce, use an X-Acto knife. A 9 ounce, I use my box cutter knife. Very technical details you're getting here. So next I have my metal rulers. These are my smaller ones. I mostly use inches because I live in America. However, if you live in any other country in the world, centimeters are your way to go. Does it really matter? Yes and no. The industry standard, at least for leathercraft, is in centimeters, whereas in fashion, it's in inches. I mean, again, depending on where you are. It's not the industry standard, but at least in America, they use centimeters for leather work, especially for shoes. I could confidently say that. I also have my big ruler, my big metal ruler. This I found at school, and nobody has claimed it as their own, so it has found its home with me. But I also have the same size 18-inch plastic rulers. Those were more for my fashion days. You use a metal ruler, especially when you're cutting straight lines with the knife. You get a perfectly straight cut when you pair it with a ruler. So moving on to my favorite section of my pegboard is all my little tools with their wooden handles. I find these very unique looking. Starting with my awls, I have many awls. And these I use as punching holes in my pieces of leather. So you can mark the spots where you want a hole punch. You can mark where the outline of patterns are. It scratches the leather, so a lot of people call these scratch awls or punch awls, and it's really good. It's a very versatile tool, and honestly, I used to use pins to do that before, but getting a dedicated awl is so important. You could see here that it's black tipped, and that's because I tip it in my edge coat and coat the edges of the pieces to finish them. It gives it a very kind of a uniform color. It's like a acrylic type of hold, and it just makes edges look very clean, very finished, and then you could polish it up afterwards. So this is like the simple man's version of polishing edges. You just use this, dip it in the coat, and then spread it over top of your pieces. And a lot of brands use this. I work for Coach right now, so most of their finishing on their leather goods is with an edge coat process. Obviously, they don't manually do that. They use a machine, and they just kind of have it spin and wrap around. But if you're doing one-off pieces, this is the way to go. Next, we have the Creaser. This is a really cool tool that I just picked up. I haven't been able to use it yet in full, but it's what you use to crease the edges as well right before you stitch. And that way you get a nice crease line. So you have the edge, the crease line, and then your stitch. Looks very, very nice, very clean, very professional. But you have to heat that up under a torch and then press it in, and it makes like a nice indented line. This one's at 2 millimeters apart. So my snippers, these are probably one of those tools that I use every day. Use these so much to cut the threads, and that's pretty much it. But they make such a satisfying sound. We're gonna have an ASMR moment right now. That's pretty nice. One of the many little things that make life worth living. So we talked about the awls, we talked about the snippers. What are these little things? Well, these are really good for what's it called? Dermar rolling. I use this on my face all the time, but I also use it on my leather work. And what that does is help you trace patterns. It helps you mark things and transfer lines from patterns to patterns or transfer patterns to leather pieces. And essentially what it does is roll over it, punches little holes that you could then use a line to match up, connecting the dots essentially. You have more creasers, edge bevelers, another edge beveler. This is called the compass, I believe, and it essentially goes along the edge of your leather, makes a little crease line, so that's where I know where to punch the holes in. This one I use much more often than this one, but they're both, having more is always a good backup substitute. Forgot how to put that in. We all know. Next we have the plug. And essentially what you'd use is in the edge finishing process, if you use Tokonol, you put the edge, fitting in the width, and you just rub it really fast. It creates friction. It heats up the fibers of the skin that you're using, and it really creates like a seal over it. It's kind of like burning a wound, and that's what creates like a super smooth, glossy, well-finished surface that keeps the fibers in and also makes it a little bit more water resistant, a little stronger, a little hard edge surface. If you use this tool well, which you see, I have many hours of stain on this one, it really helps to provide a clean, professional finish. I use this tool a lot. It's one of my favorite processes of leatherwork. You just rub it back and forth. I have my trusty spoon over here, and then another edge beveler. So, you can never go wrong with having more tools than you need. But, these are the basics. These are the basic tools if you want to get into leathercraft, if you want to get into um, figuring out how to set up a small space. I would say your essentials are your scissors, your threads, your knives, and your finishing tools. And that's kind of what the setup is. Also, I forgot to mention in that process, I also have my chisels, which I use my mallet hidden in this corner. So I have a rubber mallet and my chisels. And so what the chisels do and the punch holes is you put that on a piece of leather, or I bought this cutting board, and you put that on, you put your leather, and you put the chisel and you hammer it, and that's what makes the stitch punches. That's what could get broguing details finished. So a lot with hammering and chiseling. And the only thing that you need to know about that is to not do that at 4 a.m. in the morning to wake up your roommate, because she will hold that against you for a while before she gets over it. Next, we'll talk about some of the paints, and then we'll move on into the rest of the room. So, as I mentioned before, I have a bunch of edge coats, so you use these to finish the edges of the leather. I personally prefer Tokonol, which is a natural. It's for finishing like veg tan leathers or anything that is not a chrome tan. And essentially, what you do is you dip your finger in here, you rub it over. It looks like glue, and it pretty much is glue. You rub it over the edge, and that's when you use the burnishing tool, and you use your canvas cloth, and you do that a couple times, and that's how you get very nice finishes on your pieces. So the last supply really is rubber cement. You'll need a lot of this, so I have a big can of storage, and this is essentially the glue that you use to mold pieces together. And with that, I just wanted to talk about my stitch pony right here. This is what you use to do the bulk of your hand sewing. So you take a piece of leather, you whip it inside there, and you clamp it shut. And your leather would have hole punches that you use the chisel and hammer to obtain. And you take those 2 needles and threads, my needles are also there, and you weave. And usually I like to have that over here right in front of my laptop, and when I'm done with this, I take it off and I move it to a separate location so it's not in the way of everything while I eat or do other things on my computer. So this is a very useful tool. It's very portable, and it helps so much instead of having to clamp the leather in between your knees and stitch from there. You're sitting up a lot straighter. It holds it for you, so you can really get in there and do the bulk of your sewing. It also cuts down your sewing time a lot. So I really recommend getting one of these. I held mine off for a while just because it's like 30 bucks. But it's so worth it if you want more efficiency and more like clean stitches, and your body won't ache as much afterwards. So now moving opposite to my table setup, I'm going to show you this drawer that I have over here, as well as this. I keep a couple of loose scraps of leather and fabrics and items that I will grab as scraps for small projects. And inside this drawer over here, I have some more supplies. Right now it's getting a bit later, so I'm going to turn on the light, and so you can kind of see how the room looks when it's nice and dark out. All right, so if you don't mind the mess, we have a couple of smaller tools in here. So each of these drawers is somewhat organized as their function. So I got a bunch of my sandpapers, as well as a couple of hardware pieces that I will use for specific crafts and specific projects. This one is more like threads, my hole puncher, a couple more pieces of hardware, and some more pieces of hardware, some more like equipment. Like this is a strap cutter, some glue. We've got above kind of like that lifestyle section, so my acoustic guitar, my record player, some past projects, my hats that I made or shaped, and that overlooks the posters. This is a bag that my first bag that I ever made. Um, so I keep that hanging as you know, these are my kind of grab and go bags for the day. Um, yeah, so this is kind of like the the quick draw type of like throwing my wallet, my keys, my watches, my colognes, a pouch that I made, and a few other things. And then over here, my trash can and my daily bags, my coach bag, some of the projects again, and the pegboard and the table. So now that the sun is setting, this is kind of what the room looks like at night. It's a very cozy feeling that I'm going for. A lot of warm lights. I don't turn on the main light that the apartment comes with. It's too hospitally. So yeah, this is most of the time at night, hammering away, showing. Um, and yeah, my whole point of this video was kind of just to show you guys a you know, what you could do in a small apartment if you, whether you live in New York, or you know, a different city, if you have not a lot of square footage to set up a little studio. It is possible. I have seen a few videos, but I've also talked to some friends about wanting to create a leather workshop and a studio space and how to do that. And I think honestly, with the pegboard, with the shelves, with the drawers, and organizing it, it saves you a lot of space. You could tuck things under the bed. You could hang things. You could have things put in the corner. It really helps to create this space that is comfortable, that you feel that you're able to work at your craft. And it kind of is my like safe haven in the sense that I always know what I'm coming back into. I have all my tools laid out. It inspires me to want to create more. Sitting at your table, whether you're just watching a video, um, I'm always drawn to my craft because it is right in front of me, and I think that's something that is so important. Having it be not only in the place that you spend most of your time, but also right in front of you. So I just wanted to show you guys a quick tour of what my setup is right now. I do really enjoy it, and it did take a bit of work to get to this point, but it's going to pay off in the future as I am able to work more in my craft. I have a few things on the website right now, mainly my lighter holders that I've been making and commissioning. So that would be these guys, and I'll have some links to where you, if you want a custom version. I did an order for a friend, getting a bunch of customs or having this design. I have an Etsy shop open now that you could buy that from. But also stay tuned to some of my other projects. I'm working on a commissioned satchel bag, and some more items and collections coming out. So you could find all of that, my Etsy shop, and I'll be working on a website right now on getting that all out there. So, but if you enjoyed this room tour, this is properly fashioned. I do a bit of design, a bit of educational content for my fellow people out there, and really just trying to create this community of like-minded people who are into crafts, who are into making products and making things and learning essentially, and just being authentic in this world that we live in the fashion sphere, which can be pretty difficult or pretty hard to maneuver at times. But yeah, if you like this room tour, if you want to watch more videos, I'm going to start uploading again soon because my financial advisor, myself, is telling me to upload some more content so I can get some money from this, aka coffee a day would be nice. So yeah, subscribe, like, share, but also give me any suggestions in the comments on what you think might help my room. It definitely is not perfect, um, and yeah, that would be a good way to build community, meet some people, and you know go on this journey with me. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more stuff. All right.